Oh, sick. Okay. Whoops. Okay, hi. Welcome to 34E's second Blender workshop. This Blender workshop is going to be on posing pre-existing models. What I mean by that is like you model your model in a certain pose, and you can use Blender to change the pose that they're in and print them in a different pose. So to begin, we're going to import like some sort of pre-existing model. I just opened up a new Blender workspace. I'm just going to delete the cube by hitting X, then left click. Go up to File, Import, STL, and you can use the provided STL if you want, which is the one of our president. It's called Low Poly Mark. You can download it from the workshop recordings channel. So once you download it, you should have this thing, sort of human thing. Also, are you guys going to follow along, or should I just do this for the recording?
Let's do it for the recording.
Okay. Okay, cool. So once you have your model, we're now going to create the armature. So in the same way that you add another object, Shift A. I should actually probably turn on my... Okay, you're going to do Shift A, go to Armature, and it created this like initial bone for your armature. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rig our model, which means you're going to like place bones inside of the model that you can then move around to control how the model moves. So we created our armature, which is this initial bone. I'm just going to scale it up so we can see it. Then we're going to move it up with GZ. And now you notice that you can't really see it because it went inside of the model, which is where we want it. So we need to bring it to the front. So to bring it to the front, we're going to, with the armature selected, go to this tab of like the dude running. And then you can go to viewport display. And then you can go to in front. And now you'll always be able to see it in front no matter where it is. Now we're just going to do like some extrusion on this bone to make it go throughout the body. It's kind of important the way that you do this because bones have, like how you extrude your bone determines like what its parents are. So we're gonna just click on the armature and then hit tab to go into edit mode. So now you can see if I click on the end here and I press E to extrude and move it out somewhere, the bone has like this weird pointer shape to it. So the bones will always point to the child bones. This is going to be important later on because basically what's going to happen is if I move like this bone here, it'll affect the movement of this bone. Hello, welcome. We are doing the Blender rigging tutorial. If you want to get started, just you can just download the STL that's in the workshop recordings section. Oh, they left. Okay, never mind. All right. Anyways, moving on. So the point is that later on when we move these bones around, this bone would affect this bone would affect both of these bones, whereas this bone would only affect this bone because of the parenting. So this bone is parented to this bone. So what we're going to do is we're going to just extrude this up. I think I want one here and one here. For now, just kind of do what I'm doing. And then I'm going to make the legs. Who's that? Oh, hello. If you want to follow along, you can download the model from the workshop recordings section. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly. But all we've done so far is imported the model and then done Shift A to create an armature. And then, wait, you kind of know how to do this stuff. Never mind. Heyo. Okay, so moving on. Once we've created our armature and extruded out a few bones, now we need to make the leg bones. So it would be problematic if we just like did this because that would not work because that means that like the pelvis would get like contorted. So instead, what we want to do is we want to we're gonna make an offset bone. So we can extrude this bone downwards, and then we're going to clear its parent because right now it's like attached to this bone here. So we're going to hit Alt and then P, and it's like clear parent. And then we're going to hit G to just move it over a little bit, and then this is going to be our initial leg bone. So we kind of want to put it where the pelvic joint is. And now we're going to need to do a different type of parenting for this bone. Actually, I'm gonna move this down a little bit, like there. And I'm gonna subdivide it. If you ever like want to make two bones for where a bone is, just select the bone, right click, subdivide. Move this down a little bit just to make a spine a little bit more spine-like. Anyway, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna click on this bone, and then you're gonna shift click on this bone, and then you're gonna hit Control P to parent them together, and you hit keep offset. So if I had not done keep offset, if I just like regularly parented them, it would do this thing, right? Because that's how the rest of the bones are. So we're going to parent them with keep offset. And then we're just going to keep doing the same thing from before, just extrude the bone down. These are kind of like real bones, so you want to sort of put them where the normal bones would be on a human body. Because each of these is going to determine how you can move your model around. Generally, you want to have like, for the kneecap, you could generally just like want to have a small bone going over it. I can do that. And then we can have a final bone for the foot. Now we're gonna just swap to the right side to make sure that these are all in the right place. Just gonna kind of move them around. Just clicking on them and then using G to move stuff around. And for the leg, it's gonna be important later on that the bones are already sort of in the like the path that you want them to bend, right? So you wouldn't want it to be like this, because then later on your leg's gonna contort up this way. So you want them to kind of be like this. I'm just going to move these more towards the center of the body. I'm just going to do this, kind of get a nice spine going here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, now we just need to do the arm. Go back to front view, and then I'm just going to, oops, I'll do that. Select here, extrude out with E. Bring it out a bit, and then you're going to left click on the bone, and you're going to, same thing as before, you clear the parent, hitting Alt plus P. Clear parent. Select this bone again, hit G to move it out. Move it out a little bit. This is just going to be for the shoulder. I know this isn't how actual shoulders work, but like it's really helpful if you just have like a tiny little bone here. Yes. So if I were to connect them directly, like if I had a bone going from here to here, that would allow for actually, that is a good point. I think generally though, it's just like to prevent like weird rotations from happening here. Because if I had a bone going from here to here, then I could rotate this bone, which would just cause this like mesh here to like. I'm literally using my hand in front of the screen. That doesn't work, but it would like cause this mesh to like crumple in on itself if I were to move this bone, and so you don't want to have the ability to move that bone around. Because basically, like the bone should only really go in places where a human would normally be able to move their joints around, and like because you can't really fold your pelvis in on your stomach here, like horizontally, you don't want to have a bone there. And like you could have a bone there, like if you're making some sort of creature, but generally for human rigs, you should not have a bone there, unless you just want to really dement something. But anyways, moving on, we do want to do the same thing here. Select here, and you're going to hit Control P to parent, and then remember you want to do keep offset, and then you're going to just extrude this bone out a bit. It's important that, so like a lot of people you'll find, oh god, what did I do? Hold on. I hit a button I should not have. There we go, okay. Okay, so a lot of people will just like put a bone, like a joint directly at the elbow. This is not going to work because your elbow is going to like fold in on itself. In reality, you have like you have a ball joint there, so you want to try to emulate that. There's several ways you can go about this, but I think this is the best way. It's just having a small bone right there. And you go to the wrist, go to the end of the hand. Same deal. We're going to go out the right side of it and just make sure this all lines up with the arm. All right, that looks pretty good, I think. Just making sure everything's actually inside the body. Okay, so now to symmetrize bones, we want to replicate this to the other side. So to do that, you're going to hit B to do a box select. Select everything on the right side. My bad, I missed. So now you've selected everything that you want to symmetrize, like mirror. You're going to right click, and then you want to, in order to use the Symmetrize tool, you need to have everything named with a .l or a .r, depending on what side it's on. Luckily, you can just automatically do that with what you've selected. So you just go to names and then auto name left, right. And then you'll see that if you click on a bone, you can then look at the bone name. If you go to the bone tab, and it'll say bone.o10.l, which means it's the left side bone. So now if we go back and hit B, box select all these bones again, and then you go to Symmetrize, it'll now have named these the same thing but .r. Generally, it's like a good practice to name all your bones accurately, but because that takes too much time, I'm not going to do it. But you'll see later why it's kind of helpful. So now you have your full rig. Ideally, if there's a better rig, you'd like have more spine joints, and you could do that by just subdividing them. But like this is fine. So the next part of this is going to be attaching your mesh to your armature. So, the armature is the rig here. Because right now, if I move so there's another mode. There's object mode, edit mode, and pose mode. So if you select the armature in object mode, then you can go to pose mode. And right now, if I just move these things around, right, nothing's going to happen, because it's not attached to the mesh in any way. So I want to go back to object mode, and we're going to attach it to the mesh. To do that, I first select the mesh with left click, and then I shift select the armature. And then you'll see they're both selected like this. The order is actually important here. If you do the wrong order, it will not work, and Blender will yell at you. So then once you have that selected, go to parent, right click, parent with automatic weights. It'll take a second, and now it should be parented. So what you can do is you can now left click on the armature in object mode, go to pose mode, which is where you're going to do all of your posing. So and then you can click left click on any of the bones or multiple bones, or click on this one, and then you can hit G or R to rotate them around. And now this will have so basically what happened was it looked at all of the vertices surrounding each bone and assigned them to a bone. This is called weight. This is called weight painting, or weight selection, because you're saying that each vertex is going to have some weight with each bone in terms of its position. So this bone here is going to be responsible for all of the vertices around it. This one here is responsible for all the vertices around it. Now you can see the thing I was talking about before with parenting, where if I move this bone around, all of the bones in front of it will move. All of its child bones will move, whereas all the ones behind it don't move. This is called forward kinematics, and it's nice if you want to have very fine movements, but there is a much easier way for just general movements called inverse kinematics, where you just can move the last one around and it'll move the whole chain around. So that's what we're gonna do next. But this is honestly all you really need to do if you just want to do a simple pose, if you just want to make mark dab or something. And you could just do this. And make him dab. I notice that this is getting super contorted and very bad. The arm, the shoulder here is folding in on itself. We can fix that later. So Control Z these back. Okay, so now we're going to add an IK constraint, which stands for inverse kinematics. We're just going to do this with the leg probably, just because I'll do we'll do it with the legs for now. To start, we're going to want to go back to edit mode on your armature. You're going to select ideally you do this before you symmetrize everything, but you can also do it after, it's fine. Go to the right side viewport, make sure we're selecting the right one, and then we're just going to extrude a bone here at the heel. You'll see why. And then you extrude a bone here at not there. Extrude a bone here at whatever joint you have. Okay, now you're going to select both bones. And then you're going to hit Alt-P to unparent them. You just want to completely clear the parent. See, now they're no longer attached. And so this one, we're going to move it out a little bit. So left click to select it, hit G, move it out, left click to apply the transformation. So this bone down here is going to be called our control bone. This is going to control where our leg moves. Please ignore my Discord notifications. And then this bone over here is going to be the pose bone. again, do not disturb. Okay, this is going to be the pull bone. This is going to like basically this is going to keep this joint from just like bending up sideways and like breaking his knees. So to add the modifier, we're going to click on the shin bone, and we are going to go to the first we have to go to pose mode. You can tell because of the blue outline. Select this bone here, the shin bone. There's this new tab here, bone constraint properties. Go here, bone constraint, inverse kinematics. And now this is like the same thing as like a modifier, it's like our previous tutorial. So now you have an inverse kinematics constraint. And we need to specify the target for it to work. This is our control bone. So this is the bone we're going to be using to control this whole chain of bones here. First, you select the target armature, and then you select the bone in that armature. So we want it to be this bone here. We can click on it and look over here to see the name. It's going to be bone 10L001. Go back to here, select bone 10L001. So this is the first part of our inverse kinematic constraint. So this will work like this. Now we can go here, and we can just click on this bone here, our control bone, and we can move it around. And now you can see that like all of the bones that are before it in the chain are getting moved around. Now way too many, like pretty much all of them are getting moved right now. So what we want to do is go back to our bone that has the constraint on it. And so it's right now the chain length, which is how many bones back it affects in the chain. Because remember, forward kinematics is like you move the bones that are in front of it. Inverse moves the bones that are above it, like in the parent chain. So when it's set at 0, it'll go back as far as it can, which is why our whole model is getting moved around. And you can see like where the furthest place it goes to is by this yellow line coming from the end of the bone. So we're going to want to set this manually to 4. So like if I set it to 3, right, you can see it goes to the top of this bone right here. And now if I move it around, everything up to there will be moved. So I want to set it to 4 because I also want to just get that last bone in there. So now you can see everything up to that bone is being moved, and this is a very easy way of controlling the leg. Because now if I want to just make him dance, I can just be like, ooh, 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 and it's like stinky leg or something. I don't know. Never mind. I don't want to dance. So still the issue here though is that like you can just break his legs. Like your leg is not supposed to bend like that, and so you want to constrain.
Please don't break my legs.
Yeah. Anyways, you want to constrain it so that you cannot like bend the joint in a way that you're not supposed to bend the joint. So what we're going to do is we can use this thing called the pull target, which is a bone that will define a plane to constrain the movement to. So to do that, we just do the same thing as we did with the control bone. We select the armature that the bone is part of, which is just going to be this armature. And then we get the name of the bone, which is going to be up here, selected bone 008L001. Bone 008L001. So now this is, you can see that this is now constrained the movement to being in a plane that is somehow associated with this bone. As you can see, it's like this plane right now. But we want it to be the plane that is in line with this bone, so we're going to change the pull angle. And so you can see that this is like going to constrict it to some plane there. Generally, it's probably going to be some multiple of 90 that you want. In our case, it's just going to be negative 90. Or you can change it depending on whatever you think is best, whatever you want. So now, I can no longer break his leg, right? If I move it like this, it'll just move his leg sideways and back to like compensate for it. And also, like if I were to move his leg up like that, I can change his like knee orientation using the pull bone, and that's really helpful. All right, now we can do the same thing with the arms, I guess. Yeah, I'll just do it really quickly with the arms, just to show you how it's done. Edit mode, it's like this. We're gonna extrude that out. Select up here, extrude that out. Select both of them. I'm gonna go pretty fast through this just to get it done. Clear parent, move this one back a bit. Select this bone. Go to, actually I think in the arm, you're supposed to select the hand bone. Select the hand bone, go to pose mode. Come on, go to pose mode. Pose mode, select the hand bone, constraint, elbow constraint, I can constraint. specify the pull target, or not the pull target, the target. Armature, specify the bone, which is going to be 15L01. It's going to be 15L01. And then we're going to specify the... I usually do it with this bone. I'm just trying it with the hand bone for now. Curious to see what happens. We're going to specify this bone, which is going to be bone 13L01. Bone 13L01. That's weird. Okay, never mind. We're going to do this then. What's happening? Okay, whatever. Anyways, I'm going to do it this one actually instead because I don't know what's happening with that. Where's kinematics? Target, armature, bone. Oh, I totally set it to the wrong bone, didn't I? Okay, whatever, it's fine. Anyways, you go to here. The name of this bone is going to be 15L01. L01. And now you can move this thing around. We're going to set the chain length to be 4, so it just goes up to the shoulder. I can move the arm around. Now we just set the pull target. Armature bone is going to be 13L01. 13L01. Change the pull angle to make it better. Try -90. That looks about right. I can use this to just change the arm. Okay, cool. So now we have this arm and this leg working more or less with inverse kinematics, which just means it's really, really easy to animate now, or to pose it now. So I'm just going to duplicate these, select all this side, and then I'm going to actually go back to edit mode, select all this side, names, auto name left, right, symmetrize, and then you got your IK constraint on both sides now. Let me just double check that actually worked, because I never really tried this before. Oh, cool, it actually did work. Okay, anyways, now that worked, now we have our arms and our legs rigged completely, and now we can fiddle with the weight painting. So if you notice, like, when we do this, like, if we move his arm up like this, it's kind of pulling the top of the shoulder with it. That's because this bone is influencing too much here. We don't want this bone to influence like over here because that's just not how humans work. So we're going to need to individually specify the weighting of each bone. This can also, like, you may also have to do this, like, say if you have a really complicated model, like the Marth model that we posted in the like ads for this workshop. That model had a cape, which meant that when Blender tried to like automatically weigh stuff, it was just like grabbing parts of the cape with it. And that is a problem. So, or sometimes if Blender is like, if the model is just too complex, especially if the model is in like a bunch of separate pieces, or the mesh is like degenerate or something, then Blender can have a really hard time applying the automatic weights to it, and you're going to have to do it manually. To do it manually, what you're going to need to do is go to object mode. Then you're going to select, God, I never remember the order. I think you select vertex or the armature, and then you shift select the mesh. Yep, that's right. Go up to your mode, and then you're going to want to change to weight paint. Okay, so what this mode is you can select individual bones by hitting shift and then left click. And once you do that, it'll show you the region of the mesh that has been attached to this bone. So like when I move this bone around, right, everything that is highlighted will be moved. And like the more red it is, the more of an influence you're going to have on it. And I can, what you can do is you can like draw on the mesh to like add influence, right? So now I added that to the mesh, and so now that's going to get pulled along whenever this bone moves. You can change if you're adding or you're subtracting by clicking on this thing over here. So I can add this, and then I could like, if I didn't want it there, I could subtract it back out. So in our case, also to deselect your, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it doesn't entirely work. I don't really remember how you're supposed to show the weight paint for multiple bones at the same time. There's a way to do it. I don't remember. but you always want to deselect everything but the bone you're working on, unless you figure out how to do that. So here's the problem, is so we can see that this bone, when it moves, it's pulling this whole thing with it, which is just not right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're on subtract, and we're just going to unpaint this here. We don't want it to affect any of this stuff up here. So we're just going to unpaint all that. You can paint by just clicking and dragging. We really don't want this bone to like affect any of this, except for like the very edge of the shoulder. I kind of want that actually. Weight painting is like very difficult. You're almost never going to get like a perfect weight paint, because like if you can get a perfect weight paint, then you should be being paid like $80,000 a year for a professional job. Even like the Smash Bros characters don't have good weight paints. They still have like minor issues, especially with like overlapping of like creases, like getting stuff around the shoulders, the pelvis area. Like that's really hard to do. There are like many advanced techniques, and then I recommend just watching YouTube videos on that if you want to get into it. But most of the time, it's just not worth worrying about. So, anyways, you can also, there's an option. Oh gosh, I don't remember where it is. There's an option to automatically symmetrize your weight painting as you do it. As for where that option is, it's somewhere in here. I probably should check before I started. Okay, anyways, it's in there somewhere, but we don't want to do that in this case. So once we have weight painted that, now we can see that if we were to, if we move this around, it's not going to take quite as much of the shoulder with it. So I'm going to do the same thing for this bone, actually. I'm just going to take out a lot of the influence on the upper shoulder. And the back, because it was pulling all this mesh with it. Which is not what we want. Okay, so now when we go back to object mode, click on the armature, go to pose mode, and then we can try to make him dab again using our inverse kinematics. The shoulder won't be quite as messed up. Now, if you really want to play with this, you can make the shoulder like actually not messed up. The model's getting kind of pulled because it's a weird low poly model that I did. It's a scan, so the vertices are super like glitchy. But you can see how the shoulder isn't like quite as messed up when you try to make him dab. So we can just quickly use this side like that. Head down, That's demented.
This is cursed.
Kind of cursed. Just gonna rotate his head a little bit like that. It doesn't quite look right. That looks a little better. Okay, never mind. And then we can use the IK on his feet with the control buttons on the back, and we're gonna put. Wait, how do you do it again? Do you lunge with the side that's the elbow, or do you lunge with the? You lunge with the side that's the elbow, right?
Yeah, you gotta lean into it.
You lean into the side of the elbow, right? Okay, so we're gonna put this one up like here, and then I'm gonna use the control bone here to make his like him kind of lunge, I think. Yeah, like that. And then we still have access to like the forward kinematics, so like I can still like individually control bones. And then this part needs to lunge out, I think, right? There we go. Wait, what's
really good?
Wait, something's not quite right. Is the arm too high? Maybe?
You gotta bring like the elbow towards his face.
There we go.
I think also like the body shouldn't be vertical. Like you gotta kind of lean into it.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, okay. So we can like.
Oh, it's not bad.
There we go.
Oh my god. This hurts to look at.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is, now that we have that model posed and everything, we're gonna go back to object mode. We're gonna select the model again, just left click on it, and then we can just go to File, Export, STL. I'm going to save it to my cursed folder. Bad, wrong, and then export STL. And now I'm just going to make sure that that actually worked properly. Bad, wrong to STL. And there, now you have your extremely demented. Okay, that was messed up. Okay, I can fix that. Hold on. Oh, okay. This is because I weight painted really quickly. But like this is because this part of these are still attached to the weight paint, and I don't want to go back and fix that. But anyways, here is your dabbing mark. And just as like an
Oh, God.
extra, so you could just print this now that you have an STL. And you can do this for any model. Like the main reason that like we're doing this workshop is because like a lot of people will download models from like online sites of like people like Marth or things from Smash or just random game models. And then they'll want to like pose them doing cool poses because usually when you download them, they're just T-posing. And so this is a good way to like set up your figurine in a nice like action pose or something. Unfortunately, because most game models are kind of jank when you rip them from online, they're going to be like in separate pieces with a lot of kind of degenerate mesh. So your automatic weighing's probably not going to work that well. So you're probably going to have to go through each one of these bones and weight paint all of them individually. But that being said, this is like a little extra. It's just going to be like how you can animate. We're a 3D printing club, so we don't really do animation. But if you want to, I don't know, this is just for fun. To do that, you're going to go select your armature in object mode. You're going to go to pose mode. And then you're going to go to animation. That didn't work, did it? Animation. Okay, well, whatever. Oh, you can just do it here, it's fine. Pose mode, and then what you're gonna do is you hit. So the animation works by using keyframes. A keyframe just like specifies where the bones should be at any like particular point. Why isn't this working? Oh, I just zoomed in way too far. Okay. Anyways, so animation works by like making keyframes at each like time markers, and so the model it'll like interpolate between those to make the model hit those certain like poses that you do. So to set a keyframe, you hit I, and you just select what you want a keyframe about that. Make sure you have every bone that you want a keyframe selected. So you go I, and then I want a keyframe location, rotation, and scale for all of the bones. Generally, you just want to do this for each one. That makes a keyframe, and then we're going to go advanced time. And then I can move something, like say I can now move this leg over here, and I can move this leg like down here or something. And then I can select everything and just move them up a bit or something. And then I can keyframe that. So now if I go here, it'll interpolate between them. And so I do is I can change my like this is the animation window, by the way. Like it'll show you this is like time markers. And I can change like the end of the animation window to be right there, let's say. And then I can just play it, and then it'll like loop through this animation over and over again. So you can imagine like doing, having several different keyframes, and then you can imagine like just animating whatever you want to animate. And yeah, that's about it. Are there any questions on stuff? All right, you can pause the recording then. Thank you, Ryan.